The psychiatrist gave conflicting reports. Dr. James Hurley believed that Heiden was mentally unbalanced on the day of the murder. Dr. Jefferson Klepfer believed that Heiden had been sane, but still recommended that he be institutionalized anyway. The jury was apparently not swayed by the psychiatrist and found Erwin guilty, not because of insanity. The judge sentenced him to life in prison. Within a few months of the murder, and this is totally coincidence, but within a few months of the murder, Leroy actually got married in Black Creek. I have to imagine that wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations, you got married. Also, your parents are dead. Hooray for you. At the time that Leroy got married, he actually changed his name to his wife's last name, which is extremely unusual for the 1950s, just to kind of, distance himself a little bit from that
situation.
Also, he has a very long Polish name that I am not going to try to say, so it probably was part of the other reason that he thought changing his name would be a good idea. Erwin Heiden actually died in Appleton, not in Waupun prison, so he got out at some point. In November 1969, which means that he was only in prison for at most 15 years. It's actually unknown to me if Leroy is still alive as of this writing, as of today. I wasn't able to find anything saying that he had passed, so he might actually still be around. Now, as I said, like at the very beginning, this is not the most exciting murder story. Like it's pretty straightforward, other than the I must have killed her. Like instead of saying that he did or denying it, he's just like, I guess I must have.
Well, did he say that because when he went into these spells, would he just kind of black out and not even know what he had done?
I think that's part of it. Yeah, and he's like blaming like being on the sleeping pills at the time, so who knows like how out of... I mean, I don't know what sleeping pills he was on, but I can tell you like one time I was prescribed Ambien. Yeah, whatever you do, like when you're on Ambien, you will not remember. you will not remember.
It was kind of like you just came down and you were like, what has been going on for the past 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, like they're sleeping pills. So like you take them to go to bed, but then like it'll be like mid-morning, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second. What did I do this morning? And you won't remember. So they're really strong stuff. But anyway, so like I said at the get-go, what I want to do with this episode, because like it's not the most exciting episode. It's, murder is always exciting in its own way. But what I find interesting about this is the state of mental health in 1952.
Yes, because clearly they're saying that he's having mental breakdowns.
Yes.
And I feel like he definitely has some sort of mental dysfunction or something not normal going on with him, that he's having these breakdowns.
Yeah.
I guess is that kind of the direction you're going with it too?
Yeah, that's so like I'm using the term nervous breakdown because that's what the newspapers used. I'm not really fond of that term. Nervous breakdowns are a thing, but like I don't feel like that's an accurate description of what is going on.
No, I don't think so either. It almost sounds like, I mean, I'm by no means a doctor to diagnose this, but like a schizophrenic type thing,
yeah,
maybe,
it could be,
or something along those lines. Something much more serious than just a breakdown.
But yeah, this is what really strikes me about this. So I was kind of curious, and I don't know if you're familiar or if this has come up like on your other podcast, your Stigmas and Open Wounds podcast. But there's a diagnostic manual called the DSM.
I'm very familiar with the DSM. Yes.
Okay, all right. So like right now the DSM is up to edition 5.
Okay,
and it gets updated maybe every 10 years or so. And every time it gets updated, new things are added, other things are removed because, every 10 years we realize that some things that we were saying were mental illness weren't mental illness. It was just, that's normal. It's weird, but it's normal.
And we should probably say the DSM is a manual basically they use it's kind of the guidebook to diagnosing what's wrong with the person.
Right.
And it's not just mental illness. It's basically everything, if I understand it correctly.
I think it's primarily mental illness, but yeah, there's a range of stuff in there. And I mentioned that only to say that even the first edition of that book had not come out yet in 1952. So I'm not sure what the way of diagnosing people at that time was. I don't know. And I get the impression that this whole thing, the murder, bottom line, the murder, may not or probably not would have happened if Erwin had been treated differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's saying, oh, he has these spells. Oh, he has these breakdowns. Oh, whatever. And they're like, he stares off blankly at times. He misses days of work. He comes home early from work, whatever. There's all this, like, everybody knows he's having issues and everybody knows it's mental issues. Like, they're not like, oh, he's lazy. Like, They know there's something not right. But at no point in the story did I say, or did I find, that he had ever actually gone to the hospital.
Right.
So I don't know that anybody at any point was trying to get him treatment for this, or if they were just like, well, you're having a spell, just lay down for a few hours.
And that could very well have been the culture back then.
I think it was the culture.
Like when you saw something like that, you just figured like there's no reason to go to the hospital, just lay him down and he'll get over it. And how many murders probably occurred because of that, in truth. So
no, I think it was the culture because we didn't have as many understood diagnoses then. I mean, obviously we didn't have as many then. We didn't have as many medications then. I mean, so like a culture was clearly different, but it strikes me that they didn't apparently even try.
Well, and you don't know though, because what did it look like back then? Could he have gone to the doctor and the doctor said, there's really just nothing we can do for you? If he has these spells, this is just kind of contain him, get him laid down, get him, and it'll pass.
Yeah. I mean,
you don't know.
I guess it's so tough. It's so tough because there was the asylum, but I don't know, like, if that's like the extreme, if that's what it is. It's either you do nothing or you go to the asylum.
Yeah.
And like, well, then, like, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, well, I clearly have issues, but I also kind of need to go to work and support my family. Right. So I can't go to the asylum. So right. I don't know. Like, it's just...
And you think about it too, like you said earlier, the wife, she said for the most part, he was a really good husband. He just had these spells. Yeah. So you're not going to be prone to like lock my husband up in an asylum just because periodically he has spells. Yeah. It's just kind of an interesting... Without us knowing really what it was like back then, was this normal or was this a failure if somebody did not get him the help he needed?
I don't know. But this is... I don't even know exactly the point I want to make, to be perfectly honest with you. But, like, this isn't... Nobody, not the wife, not the son, not the priest, nobody is claiming they're having fights. Nobody's claiming there's violence. Mm-hmm. Nobody's claiming any of that. So, like, this was not like, oh, yeah, well, that's what happens. You're in an abusive situation and you don't get out. No, it's not that story. This is a guy who most of the time is perfectly normal. Uh-huh. What do you do here? Like, there was nothing to say, like, this guy's going to be a problem. Right. Like, the worst thing that happens is he has to take naps. Like, that's not that bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess really what my point, if I have one, is just like how frustrating this is.
Right. I think
to try to analyze this from today's point of view and being like, what do you do here? How could this have been prevented? And I have to figure this is part of the, like, I don't know why he got out in 15 years or less. I don't know. But I have to presume that part of the reason was the people were sympathetic to him because there was nothing indicating violence in him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he had everybody from the pastor on down writing letters saying like, no, this is a good guy. This was a freak accident.
And it could totally be that